right, well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI Live with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And Eric, it's a busy day today, so let's just start off real quick. What are we drinking?
I have that Belgian beer, that Abbey de Vauclair. So it's in French, but it's Belgian. So that's what I'm drinking. So,
nice. Okay.
Well, it's
All
Walloon. Right. So it was Belgian. It's Walloon and Flemish. So it's Wallonian Belgian beer.
Nice.
Okay.
So like the Texas kid, but he was from Arizona.
Yes.
So I've got the Back Off War Child from Revelry Brewing. It's a India Pale Ale. So I'm going with that one for tonight. Today was first day of camp with full pads. Eric, some quick thoughts. Where you want to jump first? Because I know today was focused in a couple of areas. So let's see where you want to start with.
Yeah, so we let off with the first 3 days of practice. So we didn't talk about yesterday and we didn't talk about today. So yesterday, not full pads, a lot of passing on second and long and third down situations. Today, not a lot of passing because they had the pads on. They wanted to focus on the running game. We've had, other than the injury to Bryce Ford Wheaton, we've had two awesome days for the Giants here. I mean, these practices probably couldn't go too much better than they've gone in terms of what this team wants to accomplish. So the offensive line looked pretty good by all accounts today. Even Jermaine Illuminor was saying, yeah, we won the day. They'll get their day, but today we won the day. Pat Leonard, of all people, Mr. Negativity, said the offensive line was really good. Even some of the more negative tweets that on the one-on-ones, when I actually saw the one-on-one matchups, they were better than some of the people tweeting about them. So I thought the offensive line actually looked pretty good. I'd like to spend quite a bit of time on that. But before that, yesterday, Jackson Dart had his best day of practice. Yeah, and that's a big deal. I mean, he had a really good day for him. It got to the point where I was like, oh, please, let's end practice because it's been positive. Right. And every time he threw a pass, it was another 20-yard pass down the field. I'm like, damn, it keeps going. So he had a really good practice yesterday. Again, we talked about this. It's going to be up and down, up and down. People have got to realize that. So before we all get you remember what we were saying about the negativity?
Yes.
Don't make too much about the negativity. Don't make too much about the positive stuff. But it's fun. This is fun. I mean, I don't know how you felt, but the last 2 days, other than, again, the injury to Bryce Ford Wheaton, who I don't really think was going to make the team. I just personally, it sucks for him. He's got to go through all that again. I think it's been really good.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on. I was kind of not laughing to myself. That's not the right way of saying it. I thought it was ironic. A little. I thought it was ironic. We kept talking. I kept going, man, stop talking about injuries. And then we were like, oh, we'll do the opposite. And then Bryce Ford Wheaton goes down. I'm like, oh, crap. But again, not to lessen Bryce Ford Wheaton, the person. Bryce Ford Wheaton, the wide receiver special teams player, may have had a job here as a coverage guy, but we are talking, anywhere from 48 to the 53 as far as where he'd fall in roster wise. And that really depends on how some other things worked out. So we don't know. We really truly don't know. It sucks for him. I mean, that's just
it sucks for him. He tore his ACL his rookie season 3 years ago. He played last year, and I had to go back because I knew he missed some games. And believe it or not, one of the reasons he missed 3 games last year was his Achilles, which he didn't tear, but there obviously was something there. So long story short, I think this was an injury ready to pop at any minute. I mean, he had an Achilles last year. He ran a route, wasn't touched. It tore. I think it was only I hate to say it, but it was only a matter of time before it tore because he had it last year. Right. And there are some players that just can't seem to stay healthy, and he's one of them. And unfortunately, for him, I think if you paid attention to who's getting the first team reps when other players are out, it was Smith-Marset, who played today because with Wandale out in the slot. Dalen Combrey has been getting first team reps, and Bo Collins more than him had been. So I think they're higher on the pecking order. People are saying, well, he was our best special teams player. I can't remember a play other than him picking up him. Was it he who picked it?
Yeah, it was Simmons blocked it.
Simmons blocked it, and he picked up the loose ball. And I know he's a gunner, but we're not talking about Renee Thompson here, or any one of the ones that we can remember. I can't even remember a awesome Bryce Ford Wheaton gunner play. So again, he was valued that way, but again, this wasn't the end of the world. Again, nothing against the player. It's just
sure.
Yeah.
So back to, and real quick, yes, the comment and the thing about the shirt. Yes, these are all New York Giants ones. So I've been kind of, and I've been doing it on purpose. I don't walk around downtown wearing these shirts. That being said,
that's a good thing, because my wife was wondering.
Yeah, I'm like, I know I got these cool New York Giants one. I was like, you know what? They're kind of cool and they kind of fit the show kind of thing. And I was like, for now, they're in the summer.
I've even heard the words, "What is John wearing in this house?"
It's a freaking it's a covered hood. It's 100 degrees down here today, man.
Yeah.
So there you go. One thing about the offensive line, going back to that real quick, where Illuminor had basically said, we kind of won the day, right?
Right.
I kind of feel like, and my opinion, I'm going to ask you, what do you think? I think the Giants staged this in many ways on purpose. The passing day was yesterday, the first day of full pads. Let's go a little more run. Let's do, because there was a lot less passing today. To not really expose those guys to a lot of pass rush, let them get kind of physical, because they are trying to gel. You got Hudson at left tackle, you've got Neal getting some reps in and stuff like that. So I feel like maybe running, it could just have been the schedule the way it fell. I also think first day of full pads, it might have been purposely picked to go that route.
Yeah, I mean, again, so the spring stuff is really a passing camp, because they can't wear pads and they can't touch each other. When they start the summer training camp, they ramp it up. So, and when they do, because they have so few padded practices, when you do, you got to focus on the running game. So that's kind of what they did today. Yep. So yes, I agree with you that it was designed this way, but look, yesterday was a legit day for Jackson Dart to have a good day.
Sure.
Today was a legit day for the offensive line to play well. And I'm seeing a lot of this. Wait a minute. I'm seeing a lot of this. If I can bring up Paul Kelly's comment here. I get it. We're all have PTSD with the offensive line. But it's got, I don't know how to phrase this. It's gotten to the point where the negativity is almost overwhelming. And it's not just directed at you, Paul. I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm seeing it on PBI. It's like they just expect the worst. We had a really good, what was good today was this. The backups played well today. So one of the guys who no one's really talking about is James Hudson. James Hudson looks like he was a really good sign. Again, it's way early, but it looks like he's a really good signing for this team. We're going to see plays where Brian Burns and Kayvon and Abdul beat him. But the guy's got an attitude, and everyone's picking up on this all of a sudden. It wasn't just today. This goes back to the OTAs too, where they were kind of like we had a fight in the OTAs, and I think James Hudson was involved in that one too. Mm-hmm. He brings a little bit of nasty attitude to this team, and you saw it today. And there was a really cool clip by somebody who was at camp. I didn't repost it. It showed James Hudson and Cam Scadaboo just focused on each other after a practice or after a play.
Yeah, on the sidelines. Yeah,
and the sidelines. And matter of fact, Zach Pascal was trying to get a bump in there, and they completely left them hanging because they were so focused. But I think Cam Scadaboo was basically saying, "You did awesome today. You cleared the way for me." I think he was congratulating him on that. And James Hudson is the guy who will come in and play if Andrew Thomas isn't there. So it's not Zudu. It's not, I can't even remember the guy that we picked up from the 49ers. I can't even think of his name. The guy that played for like 3 games. Chris Hubbard. And then they had to move Illuminor over there. Plus, we're hearing stuff that Marcus Bowe is looking pretty good. So our backup tackle situation looks pretty good. And today, when I was, as much as I could see from the clips, the interior guys were blocking. Evan Neal didn't look bad today. John Michael Schmitz didn't look bad today. One-on-ones, he stonewalled his guy. There was a really cool, he got out on I think I've got it here. Wait a minute. 1 second. Bring this up. And I don't know if people saw that, but if I'm going to play it one more time, watch 61, who's out in front of the screen here. That's John Michael Schmitz, and he's blocking Bobby Okereke, and he just knocks him to the ground. I'll play it one more time. He just planted him there. So again, and we're okay at the left guard position. So this was again, we're going to have ups and downs because our defensive line is supposed to be really good, and they're going to have their days too.
Right.
But today looked good because it wasn't just the starters; it was the guys behind the starters that weren't getting embarrassed. So that bodes well for this entire offense moving forward. That was my reaction. I was like,
sure.
I wanted a day like this, and we got a day like this on the very first day of padded practice. And I think the offensive line's tired of being shit on, and I think that showed today.
We've talked about it. I'm trying to remember when it was back in the spring, whether it was right post draft or pre draft. One of the things that we talked about, and one of the things I hated, maybe it was when we talked to Glenn Parker, was when linemen for the Giants, like Jones would get sacked or whoever gets sacked. The old linemen just kind of stand around. They're just like, whatever's happening, it's not a big, and then they just kind of walk off. I want some attitude.
Right.
If somebody late, you know what? I'll take 15. If someone cheap shots your quarterback a little bit, I want you to go in there and level that dude. You've got to show that this is not like we just take stuff. And that's really a big problem with the Giants all along, which is when you have no teeth in your offensive game plan, which we didn't. I mean, at this point, you can admit it. It's not just crapping on Daniel Jones that he's gone. This was happening the whole time he was there. You can now fully admit we had no teeth. We were hoping to manufacture 12, 13, 14 play drives, and maybe it's a touchdown, maybe it's a field goal. We weren't an attacking team, so we're very passive. So we constantly were taking things, and the O-line was kind of they were very much a vision of that. They were constantly receiving. We weren't inflicting anything.
Right.
And I think Hudson brings more of an infliction. Illuminor and Thibodeau were going back and forth in social media about, I'm going to see you at practice. We'll see if that stuff's going to help you out. I like that.
Oh yeah, it's cool. And so, so Emery, I can't think of his name, tweeted out today that there's been more back and forth early in these camp practices than he can remember in terms of offense winning plays, defense winning plays. So it's been pretty equal. Usually it's been one-sided in the past. So and that's what you kind of want to see. You don't want to see one side completely dominating the other one from the beginning to the end. There's so much to talk about that's positive. And to me, that was number one today because it's the most recent. But the Jackson Dart stuff yesterday was pretty significant because, again, he shows he can do it. Now, can he do it consistently and keep building on it? But he said something very interesting that I didn't expect him to say until next year. And again, there's going to be a lot of development between then and now. But he said the game's starting to slow down for me. So, again, I think there's a long way to go in that area. But he said one of the reasons he looked so much better yesterday things are starting to slow down for a little bit. And we talked about it in the last show. He's going to have his bad days too, and we'll come on here and people will be going, oh my goodness. But he was 11 of 13, and they weren't dunk offs. They weren't like, short passes.
Sure.
These were down the field throws in tight windows, some of them, and it was pretty darn cool. So like I said, I was following it as people were tweeting them out, and I was like, oh, that's good. Keep, don't mess up now. But then we get another one and another one. And I'm like, God damn, he's having a day here. So that was really cool. And the other thing I want to talk about real quick too is Cam Scatteraboo. Cam Scatteraboo is now with, again, no spring OTAs. He's has 5 practices under his belt, and there isn't a day that's gone by now where you're not mentioning Cam Scatteraboo's name. And today he got to run the football with the pads on, and he looked really good doing that too. So Cam Scatteraboo looks like the real deal to me.
I knew you would be all excited with that, and you should, right? Like that's just a different piece to it. I thought Tyrone Tracy had a really good run, following his blocks, getting downfield. Again, going back to the offensive line part of it, you saw some very physical guys getting out in front.
Yeah, watch right here. Set you up here.
Stand.
you love to see the guys out front. Again, towards the end, it was the receiver, but like you were talking about, they not only made the initial block, but then they got out in front, and he was sort of like cutting and weaving behind them. That was awesome. That was like one of my favorite plays of the day.
That was really sweet to see. And again, I've busted on this guy a lot, so I want to be real careful that I'm not just one practice and I'm not swinging back the other way yet.
Right.
But I watched the one-on-ones with Evan Neal at guard. He just plays guard he's just different at guard than he was at tackle. He doesn't worry when you don't have to worry about the outside, and I think that was his biggest thing, is like getting exposed. So he's too busy trying to fall back, jump out, and he's just all off balance. He had a guy, and I don't know who was rushing through the middle at that time on the one-on-one with him, that came in and really got right up into his pads and bent his head backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the power of Neal to basically still keep that dude from being able to get any further. His head's back, he's pushing that, and he just walled him off.
Well, it's his feet. We got to worry about his feet.
But that was great recovery.
You're not going to bull rush. You're not going to bull rush Evan Neal. That's not, like you said, you're not going to bull rush him.
So he has that, and I watched him get out in front a couple of times. I don't know if it's just, maybe it's mentally freeing to him. Maybe the tackle spot was just so much pressure of, I'm trying to overcome whatever limitations I think I have, where you've got guys, and even in one-on-ones, they still line up the center of the tackle. You're in the middle. There's still two guys, and then it's just you and the other guy that actually move forward. So I just feel like, I wonder if there's a mental capacity here that it just frees him up to not worry about that and let him just be physical.
Did you see he waved to the crowd today, and they actually?
I did not see that.
He waved to the crowd, and they actually cheered him. So he seems pretty happy so far too. So maybe we have the new and improved Evan Neal. We'll see. Again, a lot of way to go.
Sure.
And again, there have been some comments on X and some comments in our YouTube feed about you and I being way too positive and way too Pollyannish.
More specifically, a couple things, but they had one dude, I don't know who this guy is, attacked you about supposedly holding on to players who've been drafted by the Giants for way too long.
Yeah, and I responded to him. I said, I always wait 3 years before giving up on a draft pick, unless the guy's like just dreadful.
But here's the problem. His example, though, or the reason he said it, is because you've said some positive things about Jackson Dart, who has not played one down yet in the NFL. It's not like he's 3 years in and you're still going, this is the guy. You made a good point in a previous.
And I'm not a member of the Daniel Jones fan club.
That definitely not. You made a good point, and I don't know if it was the previous one or the one before, where you said, if you can't even be positive, and it doesn't mean you think they're going to win games, but if you can't have any positive feelings at all, or any hope for positivity at all in the off season heading into camp, why are you even a fan?
Well, yeah. So that's what I just want to say. Look, I fully understand. And John and I are going to talk about our expectations for the season when we get closer to the season. We have to see what injuries happen. We're going to have to see how they look in the rest of camp and in the preseason. John feels differently than I do about the schedule, but I think the schedule's a bitch. And so I think that's almost, we'll talk about that later. However, I am going to react to negative and positive stuff as I see it throughout camp, and I'm just going to do that. And if you don't want to live in that space, again, I'm going to sound like a dick. Don't watch us, I mean, so if somebody blows, I'm going to say, again, see Daniel Jones. I'm going to say it. But right now, a lot of good stuff is happening right now. Does that mean they're going to challenge the Eagles for the division? Probably not. But there's a new vibe here. Mike Garafolo is picking up. Kay Adams talked about it today. I can't remember Emery's full name, but there's a number of reporters who aren't always there at camp, and they have noticed that there's a vibe here. And the other thing, again, I don't want to turn this into a Daniel Jones bashing party again, but it's funny how many ex-teammates of him, current Giants, are now coming out and saying, what's the big difference? And they keep mentioning the quarterback. Malik Neighbors today twice he was asked kind of what's the big change. And he mentioned other things, even defensive players, but the first thing he mentioned was the quarterback. And I'm sorry, there is the what I say before, shackled to a corpse. Daniel Jones's corpse isn't here anymore, and it's not just you and me now. It's New York Giants players and national reporters who are now saying there's a different vibe with this team. Now, when they get punched in the mouth, we might find out something different. But you and I talked about this for several weeks now, coming out of the OTAs, that we picked up a different vibe with this, and I think other people are starting to pick up the vibe. Now, if they start 0-5, the vibe in training camp doesn't matter, but it's there.
You have to, it's a legitimate thing. Carl Banks posted something, and then I posted a long thing back on X to him, and he actually hearted it after the fact, where I think a lot of people just don't understand or don't want to look beyond whatever their feelings are at the moment of just how interconnected, interlocked or woven the NFL is as a team sport. Everything plays off everything else. So what we've talked about numerous times, right, is that guys like Darius Slayton, some of the offensive linemen, I won't put Neighbors in there. I don't think I ever heard him really talking, but maybe Bellinger, some of the tight ends, whatever, all had positive things to say about Daniel Jones, the person. Daniel Jones is a great teammate. Daniel Jones, no one ever came out and said that dude is a great quarterback. Nobody said that. This is different. They come out and they talk about the feeling within the team, the fact that you have a Russell Wilson who's proven it. It doesn't matter if he's on the backside of his career per se right now. What matters is to this team, he has the pelts on the wall. He has their respect. And I got to be honest, he's putting in way more effort than I was kind of expecting. I don't mean on the field, but I mean with the team, the community. He's really going out of his way to kind of take this. I think he really did want to be here last year, and I think now it's really showing up more that he is here. This is his chance, and he's taking it by the bull by the horns, and he's going for it.
He's not what I expected him to be. So that shows you don't try to judge somebody before you. So maybe he was different someplace else, but like you said, I didn't expect him to be like this. Two things, because I want to address Andrew's question here. I want to give credit to many of the clips I'm using to Ryan's Big Blue podcast. If you're not following him on Twitter, he's so far he's produced the best clips that are out there. Bobby Skinner does a good job too, but the best I've seen is Ryan's Big Blue podcast. And if you're looking for him, just look for Ryan's Big Blue Pod, POD on X or Twitter. I've been posting him, and if he's watching, you're doing awesome. The clips that you're providing are awesome. Andrew, this is a great question, and I want to preface my answer with this. Every year, you will get some guy who makes a lot of noise early and then fades, or somebody who you didn't hear early much of and you counted out, all of a sudden does really well in the last couple of weeks of camp and comes out of nowhere. So this is kind of a dangerous question because this could change very quickly. But I am basing a lot of what I think on when they're playing these guys. And right now, the two that are getting first team snaps are Bo Collins and Dallin Cambray. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Those two are getting, and then of course the Bryce Ford Wheaton helps Cambray with the special teams element. I don't discount Jordan Bly, but I think he's probably more of a practice squad guy. I still wouldn't completely discount DeQuan Felton because they gave him a bunch of money, and he's probably at worst he's probably practice squad, but I don't think he's probably, we're not hearing a lot out of him. They're throwing to him, but we're not hearing as much as we're hearing out of the other guys. And again, Juice Wells is still there and every now and makes plays, but it seems like when they want to mix some other guys in with the first team, right now it's Collins and Cambray that are coming off the bench. So if this is a horse race, the early lead coming around the first bend is those guys. Now, whether someone else is going to catch up, we'll have to see. John has brought this up too before, and as of other people too. We're still going to have, and this would be a bad sign for Jalen Hyatt. We're still going to have to wait and see if they sign what's his face?
Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis. If the Giants sign Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis had very nice things to say about the Giants recently when he met them before weeks ago, month ago. But he, in a recent interview, had very nice things to say about them. But if they sign him, I think that's a really bad sign. Personally, I think that's a bad sign for Jalen Hyatt more than anything else. But he's still out there too. And I don't know if there's any I don't know if the interest is mutual at this point.
Well, I think he has to get healthy. That's part of the problem, right? Like he was not healthy.
That's number one.
So that's part of the problem. I'll say this: every day that Hyatt goes by where he's not getting full reps, that's a problem. That's a problem because Hyatt hasn't proven anything in the NFL yet.
Yeah.
And I think he's a great complement or matching piece to a Russell Wilson in his moonball kind of thing. But if you're not on the field, it doesn't matter. And at some point, he brings so very little else to the team that if he's not, I don't think the Giants are going to get rid of him this year just because the question that we're already talking about is after you go Neighbors, Wandell, who's been banged up a little bit, and Slayton, besides Hyatt right now, who's kind of penciled in, I mean, who do you really have? Undrafted free agent guys, after the draft, a veteran in Zach Pascal. But the Giants are going to manage the cap still, which is kind of funny that we're still having to do that. But it's not a bad cap. It's just what they got to do right now. A veteran wide receiver versus an undrafted free agent, if that guy's only going to play 10 plays a game, you're probably going with the undrafted free agent if you felt he's played well enough, because just to be cheaper. So I think, though, where we fit in the waiver wire is going to be very important. There's going to be some good receivers that are going to get let go somewhere that the Giants may go and grab somebody that they want to be the number 5 or number 6, pushing somebody else a little further down. I think Smith-Marsette, though, the more time he gets in the slot to back up Wandell, and the fact that he's the number 1 kick returner is really going to lock him in. The Giants didn't go and get a guy today, which we can talk about a little further. They didn't go get a guy today to replace Bryce Ford-Wheaton to cover kicks. They actually got a guy who can cover some, but his job is to return kicks. So it's kind of interesting that we signed a returner to replace Bryce Ford-Wheaton.
Yeah, and I disagree with the takes on this and where you're going with this and what I've seen on BBI. They signed Gunner because they needed a body in camp today. Gunner's not going to make this team. Gunner has been out there. We're at the end of July and no team wanted him. He was an unsigned Giant because he missed all last year, and they like Smith-Marsette better. They brought Gunner in because they're down to 10 wide receivers and they needed somebody to come in who knew the system, and he knows the system. So Gunner to me is just a placeholder at this point. I may be dead wrong, but I doubt it in this case. Gunner is here because they needed another body, and he was the guy that made the most sense to come in here. And if something did happen to Smith-Marsette, he is your kick returner. But I think it's pretty obvious who the wide receivers are going to be. It's Neighbors, Slayton, Wandell, Hyatt, Smith-Marsette, and the sixth spot is the one that's open. And I think that's probably going to go to a Cambray or a Bo Collins at this point. The waiver wire pickup, I don't really see unless everybody, none of these UDFAs pan out. So I think they kind of like their UDFAs. It's just going to be the one that they're going to choose to make the 53-man roster. Now, if there's somebody really good out there, maybe. And again, if Hyatt shits the bed, sure. But to me, if Hyatt shits the bed, it's more along the lines of Gabe Davis coming in than a waiver wire pickup. But again, I may be wrong about that. I just that's my gut feeling right now is they're kind of hoping like Dalen or Bo is that 6th guy, or maybe one of the other guys at this point. Hyatt, I think we're starting to spend too much time on him. He's the 4th wide receiver on this team, and that's not going to change. In order for him to get a lot of snaps, he would have to beat out Slayton. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. So he needs to get back on the field. They're just being cautious with him. He had cramping issues. Bill Parcells would make a joke there, but
just ask Terry Glenn.
Yes, exactly. you know where I'm going there with this. The one that's actually it's not troubling, but it's annoying is Wandell missing time right now.
That doesn't bother me at all.
So let's see, but I knew you were going to say that, but it bothers me because Wandell has to get used to the new quarterbacks. So
I agree with that, but I mean, injury-wise, it doesn't bother me. It was a bang. He banged knees with somebody, and they didn't think it was a big deal.
Yeah, but cramping's not a big deal either.
That's different. See, that bothers me because Hyatt's not proven a damn thing in the NFL. Wandell has proven that he can play.
Wandell's got a lot to prove still.
You can't say he didn't, though, when he had 93 receptions.
Yeah, 90 93 receptions for like 600 yards.
Yeah, but we also know what we had at quarterback, which was a point that was made elsewhere.
Let's say I think right now for sure we have one really good wide receiver, Malik Neighbors, who has a toe issue, and a bunch of guys that we're not sure how good they really are. I'll go that far.
Well, sure, but if we are going Wandale Hyatt, they are on different levels. Wandale tore his ACL one year, but he was already producing a 100-yard game when he tore his ACL. He then came back. He's played well. He gets banged up a little bit. He's a small guy, but he's constantly out there. And it was a little minor thing. He and Brian Burns smashed together.
Right.
But he came back. Then they bang knees, and so they hold him out. Hyatt gets cramps or whatever, and now he's missed what? Of 2 full practices, and he kind of did individual drills, but he didn't do the full pads. That dude can't afford to miss anything. He has been a major disappointment, and he showed a little attitude about it and complained about it, and I even said he would like to be traded. Wandale is way better and more reliable, thank you, than Hyatt, without question.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't know how good Wandale really is. Are there other teams worried about Wandale? Wandale, to me right now, I don't worry about Hyatt missing games because Hyatt's Hyatt. If Wandale misses games, that would again, this is not a big deal, like you said, but neither injury to either of these wide receivers is that big a deal. But to me, in getting the offense ready for the season, it's more important Wandale get time with our new quarterbacks than I think both of them. But the way I feel, and I've defended the Wandale pick. The guy that was yelling at me in the YouTube comments section was yelling at me about Wandale. He thinks I've been way too positive about Wandale. I have defended Wandale, but Wandale needs to score more touchdowns. We can say that was the quarterback last year, but we'll have to see.
But I will say the fourth wide receiver though is a little bit more important than what you're saying though, because if one guy gets injured, he's the 3. Right? One guy gets injured, he's suddenly playing a lot. And Hyatt hasn't done anything yet. I haven't seen him.
But that's my concern is the starting slot receiver is way more important than the fourth.
Oh, sure. No. I think we're on the same page. Yeah. So I don't want to beat this, or this isn't you. But what I am saying is Hyatt has to prove something that he can be the 4. A 4 is a guy who will potentially play a lot if someone else goes down. He's a guy you want to slide in. He could take Slayton's spot. Slayton could move over and take Neighbor's spot, and he would come in and take Slayton's spot on that side. He's probably not going to move into the slot more than likely. Even if he has done some things there, that's bullshit. He's not going to do it in the game, play in and play out the way the Giants run the slot pieces. It's going to be somebody else. He hasn't done anything, though. And if he doesn't start doing it, Gabe Davis is definitely the one to watch. There's a reason why the Giants were interested in him. It wasn't because they thought they needed to replace Slayton. It's because they signed Slayton to a new contract. Right. It was because they weren't sure that Hyatt was actually going to have an attitude that would convey enough to say, we can trust this guy to play. And until he's on the field, we don't know.
Right. And so Hyatt needs to get back on the field to be smart, tough, and dependable. Right. I just don't. Again, remember some of this stuff is out of the hands of the players too. Like Andrew Thomas, the trainers are not going to let him come back. Jalen Hyatt may be lobbying to come back and practice, and the trainers aren't letting him right now. I don't know, but to me, it seems kind of odd that cramping after he's been out. He was out another day because of cramping. It makes me wonder: was it cramping or did he tweak the hamstring or something that. So we'll have to see. All right, let's get back to the positive. So another positive, we did the Tracy play, and let's look at stat. So he's been doing that on the ground, and he's been doing this in the air. And this was kind of what we were talking about in our last show is I want to see him in the open field with a head of steam. Yeah. And I think it was being a little bit easy on his fellow teammates today because there were a couple of times when he did put his shoulder in, not just that, there was another pass play and he didn't do full scataboo where he, what you saw at Arizona State.
Sure.
He's not going to do that to his own teammates. But that was a really well blocked screen, by the way. And so it looks like the Giants might be able to be a good screen team. Knock on wood, maybe that would be something that would be nice because Tracy and Cam would be great on screens. So Cam Scattaboo. I mean, I don't know what you think. There was a discussion in the website today where people were arguing about his 40 time. I don't care about his 40 time right now. What do I wish he had 4.3 speed and could just take it to the house? Sure, but I'll take that. I mean, that's damn good. His vision and his ability to make people miss, and his contact balance, which we still haven't seen because he hasn't had to run through people. I'm really excited about him.
I like him a lot, and I know you're very excited about him, and
yes.
I'm not saying I'm not that far behind. I think one of the things though, because long speed is what people keep bringing up. Ahmad Bradshaw was not a long speed person, but he broke some long runs though. Ahmad Bradshaw, when he got in the open field, he also had that herky jerky movement when he would run and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in between tackles and coming up to tackle him was not easy. He was not a big guy. Ahmad Bradshaw was not a big guy. So when they would come up to tackle him, he's got arms and legs are flying all over the place. When you'd come in to hit him, he's not an easy bring down, but he would run far enough when he did break open that said breakaway speed is not necessary if you get out in the open and you can maintain your speed. It's guys who have like a speed like for 15 yards and then they just fall off a cliff and then they're going to get tackled. If you can maintain your speed, you're going to outrun some stuff because, by the way, the guys chasing you have to get off blocks. They're trying to gain ground from wherever they were to wherever you are. So there's a lot to be said about that. I like him a lot. I think his ability in the passing game is going to be something that we're really going to rely on a lot. I think we're going to see him a lot in the passing game, and I think he's going to be that change of pace guy. But I'm really thinking Tracy's a guy that people are really sleeping on a bit. He had such great instincts last year. It was just putting the ball on the ground was a problem. I think these two together, they're not really thunder and lightning per se. It's kind of more like two versions of lightning. They're a little bit different that they bring. And Scattaboo's going to be that tough guy. He's not a big guy. He's not Brandon Jacobs, but I like his attitude, and that matches the attitude with the offensive line. That matches an attitude with maybe like a Chris Manhertz as a blocking tight end. We want some attitude on our team, and we got it.
Well, I think Kay Adams said it today on X. She said she wondered aloud if a lot of the attitude adjustment we're seeing from the Giants is also coming from the rookies. So Dart's a pretty confident guy. It's Cam Scattaboo. I don't know if people have been seeing him coming out for practice every morning, but he's like, woo! He says, I'm not going to try to imitate him here.
Did you see him come out wearing Dart's jersey?
Yes. But he's fired up from the moment he gets out there, and that can be all for show. But what I really like, as I said earlier today, was he got up into Hudson's face, and he was like, and the intensity there is just awesome. We need people that hate to lose, and I don't think Cam Scattaboo is going to be one of those guys that takes losing very well. I think, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's hope everyone stays healthy, but I think years from now, people will be wondering how the heck did he last to the fourth round. That's my feeling. Again, I'm a Tracy guy too, so I agree he's flying under the radar, and we saw again. Cam's the favorite flavor right now because of his personality, but I love our 1-2 punch. I love the cost of these guys. They're both cheap contracts.
Sure.
They're fourth and fifth round guys that are very, very cheap, and that's great moving forward. So they're still in their early in their rookie contracts. So.
If they both do what we think they will do, right? What current expectations are.
Right.
They will have proven Shane's thought process on you can fill the running back position with guys a little bit later in the draft. We can have multiple of them, and they are cheaper than spending $15, $16, $20 million a year on a running back that you just can't. That's just not the way it goes. Some teams can afford it. Yeah. The Eagles could right now. Why? Because they're a championship team already. They built everything behind an offensive line.
He was a missing piece for them.
And for all we know, he has a year this year that's very similar to what he's had with us. Maybe he tweaked something early. Who knows? He's had a history of injuries. You just don't know.
Well,
but chip-wise, the Giants had to do something. You can't just sign the running back when your offensive line is poor, your receiving core is okay, but your quarterback sucks. You just can't.
Well, there was also, I think there was and this is me speculating. He was hurt 4 of his 6 seasons as a New York Giant. I think there was a discussion in the franchise about how much do we want to pay Saquon when he's hurt more often than not. And remember, the New York Giants fan reaction when he signed with the Eagles was like, crap. But then it was, well, he's going to get hurt. So, but he didn't. And to credit to him and credit to that team, and they did really well. But again, I don't want to talk about, but I like the run. Like, and you and I have been talking about this for a while. I like our running backs, and we haven't been talking about Devin Singletary. And if he's the third running back, then our running back room is awesome. And we haven't talked about Turbo Miller. So, other positions the last 2 days. So should we talk about Jackson Dart still, or Russell Wilson, or Jameis Winston hasn't been looking bad either. I mean, so and the other thing is Malik Neighbors, when he was talking to Kay Adams today, he said, if you really want to pile on Daniel, he didn't say it was Russell Wilson's the difference. He was saying all the quarterbacks we brought.
Yeah, it was pretty clear.
It was almost like he was saying, we got 3 guys better than the last guy that was here.
He has no allegiance to him, and why should he? I mean, he wasn't part of that. Slayton's the only guy on the team that really could probably still, and you and I brought up, you were first to do it. Slayton was one of the first people to talk about when the ball is where you're supposed to be. It just makes all the difference, and how it feels to have that room to be different. There is a thing. I said it earlier about Evan Neal's mentality. There's a thing.
Settle down, David Austin. There's an inside joke.
Nice. Jesus.
Sorry.
There's a thing about mentality, right? And when if you change a bunch of stuff, and then the one thing you don't change is as an integral cog of the team,
right?
That other mentality stuff doesn't matter. But when you've changed the cog, which is Wilson, Dart, Winston, any one of those, you brought them all in. You've changed that. You've said no matter what happens. In fact, think about it this way too. You've brought it up over and over. Who do the Giants bring back on offense, but outside of the quarterback?
Everybody.
So what did you tell? So if you're one of those guys, though, what did the organization tell you? They told you, I don't believe last year was your fault. I don't believe you were the problem.
Certainly not.
We believe in you. And that's going to either sink or it's going to save our ship. But that's what they're telling them. And so far, these guys have bought into it.
Yeah. So we'll see about that. Real quick on Dart. So Dart played very well yesterday. Again, can go up and down, but he had a day. He had a really good day. What I liked was his press conference afterwards. If people haven't seen it, I just like the way that he carries himself. I like his personality. He's cocky, but not too cocky. I recommend watching it. The more he's growing on me. Now we'll have to see what he's like when the pressure's on and in real games and all that. I don't think he's going to play early. I'm pretty darn sure he's not going to play early, but that was a good day for him, building upon that. And then, he was getting a lot of different wide receivers involved. So he's looking to, when you look at who he was throwing to, especially on that last drive when he drove 12 plays down the field, it was to all the different wide receivers. So I thought that was cool. That was cool too. And so my big takeaway the last 2 days is we had a really good Jackson Dart day. Great. We had a really good offensive line day today, which is great. Abdul Carter, everybody is just, again, I'm almost like, please just, I don't want to put him in bubble wrap. I don't want to do that, but I'm like, please don't tease us and have something bad happen here. But he is just, everybody. Did you see Malik Neighbors today when he was asked about Abdul Carter? Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
He was like, oh my, he was like, yeah, everyone who's seen him play is like, he's the real deal. So I'm very excited, and we've seen clips of it, and I'm almost like, I don't think we've seen even the best that he can do right now. Because the players are all like, yeah, he's really good, and wait till you see it. I mean, that's what Malik was saying today. He was like, wait till you guys see what he can do, kind of thing. And this is from Malik, who's, he's got a big ego himself.
So we are live, so I'll share this real quick.
Yeah.
It's not tied specific to the Giants. The NFL offices were locked down a little while ago. I don't know if you saw that or not. There was an active shooter situation on 340 Park Avenue. It does appear to now be handled that people have been arrested. There was a police officer that was shot, wounded. I haven't seen anything else, but that was just a thing that popped up on my NFL news that just popped up. Yeah, the Kay Adams conversation there when you talk and when they bring up and when anybody talks to any of the Giants. So actually, let me change that. Kay Adams asked Brian Daboll a question and said, with full pads, who of your players was looking forward to the full pads the most? And I think she picked two players. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. And Daboll came back with, he goes, yeah, it's been Abdul. He's been asking for like 3 days when we would get to pads. There's something about him that I think I don't want to overblow it, but I did say it in the previous thing, so I can't back down from it because I still feel the same way. It's an LT like change. You had quality again. 1980, you had quality players on the New York Giants defense. You had a George Martin, you had a Harry Carson, you had Brad Van Pelt, you had Brian Kelly, you had good players. Then you brought in a guy that Gary Jeter called. He goes, I saw Superman 1, I saw Superman 2. Now I've seen Superman 3 because I play with him on the team. That to me is kind of what Abdul Carter can do for this team. He's going to make everybody else better because he is just freakishly athletic. It's crazy to watch the way he goes about and he goes very intensely in the one-on-ones. Those guys outweigh him by quite a bit. He's not the biggest outside guy coming in, and he is pushing guys back. He rips off really. Did you see when he took Stone Forsythe and just kind of clubbed him aside? I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And by the way, I think we have a fellow podcaster in here.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's who I think it is.
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. He does great stuff. I follow him on X, and he does great work too. So welcome in the show. We'd love to have you come on at some point too. I'm just kind of pinching myself with Abdul Carter right now, but I'm just kind of also holding my breath because sometimes as Giants fans, we're not allowed to have nice things anymore. So I'm just sort of, again, I said earlier, don't get too afraid. We have two PTSD, but I do have a little PTSD with some of this. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, with Malik Neighbors, I'm like, what do you mean he's got a toe injury that won't go away? That kind of still.
You did have, I think, an exchange going back and forth, staying on the defensive side of the ball, though. The conversation was about the player who was going to line up next to Dexter Lawrence. And a lot of the questions were, what about Darius Alexander? We haven't heard from him and whatever. Your thoughts on right now who we think is going to be, or at least so far, what appears to be the guy who's going to be next to him, and then kind of the way this plays out, with the caveat, too, that I still can't believe that Raheem Noches is still on this team.
Well, Raheem seems to have moved the backup nose tackle. So last year they had him playing 3 technique. I don't think he was well suited for that. If he makes his team as a backup nose tackle, that's more damning about DJ Davidson and Jordan Riley. But let the best man win. If Noches was the guy that was playing 3 technique for us again this year, I'd be like, oh crap. So he doesn't seem to be playing there. Joe Shane was very positive even after they drafted Darius Alexander, about the 2 defensive linemen they signed in free agency, Roy Robertson Harris, who has been starting since camps began next to Dexter. And again, really big man. He's kind of built like Keith Hamilton in terms of height.
Oh, nice.
A little more of a lean build, but he's a big guy. And I think it's his job to lose right now. That doesn't mean that's not an indictment on Darius Alexander. It's Darius Alexander's a rookie, and I guess again there's a lot to like there. I'm more curious to see, believe it or not. I know what we have in Dexter. I want to know who the backup nose is, and I know at the 3 technique we're going to be like Elijah Chapman, Darius Alexander, Roy Robertson Harris. I'm more curious to see what they're going to do with the rest of the defensive linemen at this stage. So it seems like Elijah Chapman's still getting a lot of snaps. Roy Robertson Harris is getting a lot of snaps. The Darius Alexander stuff's interesting because we've had people like Art Stapleton put him on his stars list. Remember our last show?
Yeah.
But then there was Bobby Skinner today was saying, I'd like to see more out of Darius Alexander. But somebody else said something. John Schmelk today said in the one-on-ones that Darius Alexander stood out to him in one of the one-on-one reps with, I think he said his bull rush. I'd have to go back and look at that. So again, it's really early. We don't, again, I'm still very optimistic on him, but I think, again, I don't think they would prefer to have a rookie start next to
Dexter.
Dexter. Yeah. Unless he's clearly that much better than anybody else. So I'm really curious to see Roy Robertson, Harris, and Dexter in a real game together and see if that combined with the guys that we have around them now makes it a much tougher for other teams to run on us.
It's another position that I think you could look at the waiver wire if we're looking to fill. If a guy gets cut from another team that maybe they get released because of salary considerations, or they drafted some other younger guys, I could see the Giants bringing somebody else on board. I think they're going to be active, not as much as they've been in the past, but I think the last 4 or 5 guys on the roster are really going to be potentially swapped in and out, but depending on who becomes available. But I'm curious to see, because again, though, a lot of it comes down to how are they going to play? Are we going to play the 2?
Right. Now, exactly.
Was it Stapleton that suggested that the Giants should switch to basically go 4-man line and go with Burns and Thibodeau at the ends, and then Lawrence or was that more of the 4-man line when he was talking about the pass rush? I can't remember.
Well, that's kind of what we run now. If you consider our outside linebackers as ends, that's kind of what
you could. And I feel like I'm really concerned that if you just continually rely on, we're just going to put 2 guys in the middle to play the run, you do have a lot of guys who are kind of light in the pants. They're going to be taking on very big tackles to try to stop that.
Well, we've talked about that. That's an issue moving forward. They'll move in and out of that 3-man line. There was some clips in the last couple of days I saw them in 3-man lines. So I don't know how much they're going to play. And Andrew, to answer your question, this is going to sound like a cop-out. We're not going to really know until the preseason on this, because to be honest with you, I can't see. The people in the stands can't really see. We can go back and dissect individual clips, but we're not going to really know who's really looking really sharp. I mean, you can go back and look at the 1-on-1 pass rush drills today, but that's not really going to tell you how these guys are doing in as a run defender and a pass rusher,
sure,
in an 11-on-11 situation. For me to tell you who's looked good on the DL, anyone right now would be me lying to you, because I have no clue. I mean, you can find a clip like Dexter blew up a run today. We saw that. We saw plays where you can see somebody making a play, but to tell you that guy's played throughout practice really well, I would be lying, because I don't know. And nobody there at practice is going to be able to tell you that either. We're just going to have to wait to the preseason.
So to answer that question, there will be releases at different points in time. Guys get cut earlier. Sometimes teams cut veterans a little bit earlier just to kind of give them a free chance. But after the last preseason game,
there's one day now.
It's usually one, but the teams start ahead of time. It's like that one day they have to, but if it's over the weekend, especially if they play on Thursday, Friday, you'll hear things over the weekend. They'll let some of the veterans go a little bit early to give them a head start before the big rush of everybody on that single day. So it'll be interesting to see. The thing real quick. So we want to keep this tight.
Let's keep it tight.
I don't want to go past an hour. Yeah. Stars for you, and I use stars just not really but people have stood out so far. You give me 3 or 4 that for you have stood out so far to you that you were like, you know what, I like what I'm seeing so far.
Well, I don't know how you can keep Abdul Carter off the list. Carter looks like he's the real deal. I'm going to say somebody who I didn't have high expectations for. Again, it doesn't mean anything. But James Hudson looks better than I thought he was going to be, and I didn't know about his attitude. I mean, when they signed him, I'm like, oh, all right, $12 million for this guy? But so far, he's held his own. And he was getting into it pretty good in the 1-on-1 pass rush things. And he's practicing like a guy who wants a starting spot. I don't think there's a starting spot for him, but if we have to lose somebody right now, I don't feel terrible right now. So, Again, I'm not saying his star. I'm just saying I'm really surprised at how
Sure.
James Hudson has been playing. And I think that's a big deal for given the Giants. He's the left tackle on this team right now until Andrew Thomas gets back. I think it's kind of a big deal. Do I want him handling Micah Parsons when we play Dallas? I'm not so sure about that. But right now, that's great. Third guy. Who would the third guy be? You give me somebody while I'm thinking. I got to think about that.
Well, I mean, I think you would have to be all on board. Scadaboo has been your guy.
Yeah, I guess that would be yeah. And it's because he's kind of validated what I thought about his pass catching. I think that he didn't practice in the spring. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if there was an injury or because he didn't sign his contract, and that was never really explained. But he looks like the real deal. But I want to see if I can think of. Well, you give me your three.
Yeah. So this one is a little premature. But what I've seen so far, I like where it could go, and it does give us so much flexibility, is I like what I've seen from Evan Neal. I think Evan Neal went from this dude might not make the team, like he might not be on the team,
right,
to he legitimately has a chance that he could show that he could play guard. And if he can play guard, that gives us roster flexibility. Van Roten as the backup center guard is so much better than Van Roten the starting guard, and then something happens to JMS, and now you got to move. Now you're making multiple moves at the same time. If Neal can outright win the guard spot, and he brings physicality, something that Van Roten doesn't, even Runyon lacks a little bit because he just doesn't have the size that Neal has.
Right.
At that guard spot, that interior spot, if he can win that would be huge. But just knowing that I think he can play it, that the Giants will feel comfortable with him at least being a backup is huge. He would be one. The second guy is a guy who hasn't done a bunch with the ones, but has done enough that the Giants are playing him. I kind of like what I've seen from Bo Collins. I think he's like one of those guys that the Giants, kind of like a Bryce Ford Wheaton, came out of nowhere and they kept him. I think Bo Collins is a guy that they really could keep. He legit has wide receiver skills. It's just a matter of, will they want to develop him more and just stash him on the practice squad, or are they going to hold him on the roster? That'll be an interesting spot. So those are two.
But wouldn't you have kept him over Bryce Ford Wheaton now?
I would have, yes, absolutely.
No, that's my point. That's my point about I'm not so sure they're going to pick up a waiver wire guy at wide receiver. We'll see. We'll see who comes through. But anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, that's great. It's a good question. And then third, honestly, it's kind of bounced around a little bit, but I like the fact that Cordell Flott is showing that he can be out there. I want Banks to be pushed to the nth degree. And if you can beat him out, I'm happy with that. If you can't, but you showed enough, that's perfect. That's what the Giants need. We want to know that if something happens, the next guy in is a quality guy. And I think Cordell Flott, he has great ball skills. That was one of the things that got him drafted, really. His size he was lanky. Right. He had a little bit of length, but he was skinny as all hell. And he's not much of a tackler. So his traits were, can he cover? And he could. And so he has good ball skills and he can cover. Well, he's showing that he can play, and the Giants are giving him every opportunity. I was a tad disappointed that Trey Hawkins, after we just heard about him,
right.
And then he kind of ended up on the sidelines a little.
But that could have been a cramp thing again. Again, we don't know. We'll have to find out if he's out tomorrow. But like you were saying with Hyatt, he's a guy, especially given his history with injuries, he's a guy that he can't afford him. That's a spot. So I'm not really so sure that they're going to pick up a waiver wire pickup on defensive line, and I'm not so sure they're not going to. I don't think they're going to pick up a waiver wire pickup at wide receiver and defensive line. But I could see them, depending on what happens with these guys, picking up another corner. Corey Black has been making a few plays, so and I know Bobby Skinner's been touting him. So we'll have to see.
For the people, as he says.
What? For the
he
people?
says for the people because I'm doing it for the people.
For the people.
You got to be careful when you start thinking that you're kind of anyway. Yes, he was doing it for the people.
And I'm going to add one other guy that no one's really talking about. You talked about him, and it's a big deal because you've mentioned because it saves a roster spot. But again, because Wandell's kind of a small guy, but Smith Marset, I didn't think he was more than a kick returner, and he's showing signs of life as a possible, at least a decent backup. And that's a huge, because if you can have a guy that's not just a special teams player, he can do other things. That saves a roster. Like you said it before. It saves a roster spot. So I'm going to give him an honorable mention Smith Marset. Looking at the people, and I want to give an honorable mention to Tyler Newbin. I think he's had a strong start to camp as well too. But I think the three that you helped me with Scatteroo, but I think those are mine, and I like yours.
Well, you got me thinking. I left one guy out that should get the honorable mention, and that is Fedoni. While he didn't do anything today, some of the catches and where they're using him, he has a legit chance to be one of the 4 tight ends on this team for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's been positive. I just want to, to wrap this up, I want the way I feel right now is everything's been, except the Bryce Ford Wheaton injury, everything's been pretty positive so far. It's only 5 days in. We're going to have to see, but there's a good vibe with this team. It's a fun vibe. I like the players that they've acquired. We'll have to see about the quarterbacks. Can Russell Wilson lead this offense and seriously challenge the Cowboys and the Commanders? I'm not even talking about the Eagles at this point, but he's got to outduel some of these other quarterbacks in the league. He's got a Malik Neighbors, he's got a Theo Johnson. We've talked about the running backs. I want to see the only downsides right now. I want Tay Banks to take charge of that spot, and he hasn't. I agree with you 100%. The longer that goes back and forth, that'll help depth wise because both will be ready. But I really want Tay Banks to take charge of that, and he hasn't done that yet. And I said this in the last one. I really want to see one of the other wide receivers, a Wandell, a Darius Slayton, just have a really awesome day. And we haven't seen that yet. We need to have somebody to take some heat off of Malik Neighbors. And Darius had that awesome one-handed catch yesterday, but we need to see I want to have a practice where Darius Slayton catches 2 long bombs for touchdowns, or Wandell does something incredible in practice. That's what I'm waiting for. I want those guys to help take some of the heat. Or if Jalen comes back from his cramps and doesn't. But we need
you shouldn't have said it like that.
Yeah, I know. I'm still channeling Terry Glenn.
I think you're doing the Parcells thing. You should not have said it like that.
It's funny for me to put that in the injury report, cramping. It just sounds like
just take some Midol and get back out there.
I was going to say cue the Midol. On that note, I'm done. So.
All right. So with that being said, I think we'll wrap it up. They're going to do a couple more this week. We don't know the dates or times yet. I mean, we'll talk about it, but
every 2 to 3 days is good, I think.
I think so too. So let's assume right now it'll be Wednesday night. We'll do the next one. We're going to try to keep these a little. We said a half hour. We only missed it by half hour. So we cut it down, which is way down from the hour.
We're trending in the right direction. Big picture, Klaatu. Big picture, Eric.
Nice. So So anyway, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We really do appreciate it. Appreciate the chats. It's great. And we'll be back again on Wednesday night. And let's hope for no injuries and go Giants.